Hello everyone and welcome back to this new video, the most anticipated video of my channel up until now. And in this video, we are going to finally take a look at the roadmap that we have ahead of us to become a web developer in 1 year and get high paying remote jobs, right? This roadmap is not just for first year college students or second year college students, but I have designed this roadmap in a sense that it is focused more on someone who has dropped out of college. So obviously, if this roadmap is designed for someone who has dropped out of college, then it doesn't matter what year you are in, it applies to you as well. You can score, high paying remote jobs through this bootcamp. So that is not going to be an issue. And also, if you're someone in the later stage of your career, as I mentioned in my first video, the introductory video, if you're someone in the later stage of your career wanting to get a career in tech, then this roadmap is going to be for you. And my entire bootcamp is going to focus on that. And apart from that, this roadmap is also, not just focused on helping you become a web developer, but it is going to focus on helping you become a T-shaped developer with the specialization in web development. But you'll also have, a lot of knowledge in other aspects of development as well. And I talked a lot about T-shaped developers in my last video, the modern developers in the industry who, get a lot of remote opportunities. A lot of companies want to have them. So if you haven't watched that video yet, I highly recommend to you that you pause this video right here, and you can check out that video's link in the description below. Just go through it, just watch it, right? And I can, promise you, as per the feedback that I've received, I can promise you that it's a value for time, right? I know it's a 1 hour video, but it is a must watch. So if you are new to the channel, if you haven't watched that video yet, I highly recommend to you that you watch that video first. Only then are you going to understand what I'm going to show you, what I'm talking about in this video, and why my roadmap is designed the way it is designed, right? So without any further ado, let's just, dive into the roadmap. I'll start by sharing my screen here. So as you can see, my screen is shared right now. In front of my screen, you can basically see four different phases of this roadmap, right? So I have categorized this into four different phases in which I'm going to teach you different things, right? So let's start by first taking a look at the phase one of this. And just pardon me about the quality of this, because I don't have a website up and running. So I intended this to be a part of the website, but still, I mean, since I don't have the website at this point of time, I am yet to create it. Basically, I just created a web page which is running locally on my device, right? So I'll quickly show you the phase one of the roadmap. So here, when I hover to the phase one, it expands a little bit, and we can see that it focuses on static websites, right? So the phase one of my roadmap is going to focus on static websites, how you can create static websites. And again, it is going to focus on some of the basic stuffs like HTML, CSS, and we are going to talk about Bootstrap as well. We are going to learn Bootstrap, and along with Bootstrap, we are going to learn Flex as well. And Flex, along with Flex, we are also going to focus on grids as well, what the grid layout is and what the box model is and things like that, and how we can design elegant websites, static websites. We are also going to check out Tailwind, but if you pretty much have the idea of Bootstrap, we are going to discuss it in detail about what are the differences between Bootstrap and Tailwind. But I mean, once you get an idea of how Bootstrap works, Tailwind is quite similar, so you won't be finding any issues there. And we are also going to cover some basic JavaScript in this. And I'm going to like teach you a little bit of JavaScript, the basic JavaScript stuff that is generally used in creating static websites. And we are also going to you know go in depth about how browser works, right? And what is DOM and things like that, how do you do DOM manipulation. So for DOM manipulation stuff, there's a very famous library known as jQuery. It might sound like it's not much in use in the industry, but trust me, I mean, a lot of projects still require jQuery as per their use cases, and it makes your life a lot easier. That's why it exists in the first place, right? So we are also going to focus on jQuery. I'm going to teach you a thing or two about jQuery as well, and we are also going to see how we, create different visual effects in websites. So by visual effects, I mean there are, different stuffs in website, such as sliders that we have, sliding from one part to the other, and we have image galleries and things like that, and we have different visual effects, parallax effect and things like that. So we are going to see how these different visual effects are actually implemented in a website. Maybe you want to create a website for some slides or things like that. So you're going to see how these, different functionalities are built using JavaScript and things like that. And I'm also going to cover some of the Git basics, and not just basic. I mean, since I mean Git is going to be heavily used in this entire, roadmap and the bootcamp, and Git is something that, is the most favorite tool that the developers use, the most used tool out there. We are going to I'm going to create one video on Git, which is like going to cover it right from the basics till the end, and it's going to like show you how Git works. How you have different, remote repositories out there and things like that. How do you, cherry pick some of the things out of your Git repository and things like that. And we are going to cover some basic mistakes that developers make, generally happens in, when you're developing applications. As per my experience, we are going to see some of those, difficulties and mistakes that generally happen when we are, developing certain websites. And we are going to also, cover some of the good practices, how you can, use Git, that is, actually a good practice, and it is actually used in the industry, how, companies use Git and create different branches for different things, and how, PR is created and things like that, pull requests and things like that. And I'm also going to teach you about Linux, right? So one thing that this bootcamp is going to have is that I'm going to use Linux for this bootcamp. I'm going to use an Ubuntu operating system for this. Initially, I mean, might switch back to Mac OS later on, but initially we are going to start with Linux, because I highly feel that Linux is like something that each and every developer should know. It is like very widely used in software development field. And yeah, I mean, just to promote that a little bit, we are going to, I myself is going to, use Ubuntu for that. And I'm going to teach you a little bit about Linux, how it works behind the scenes, and what is bootloader and things like that. And, how you can perform different things, what are the different commands that are there in Linux and things like that. And, once we complete this phase one about learning static websites, I am going to create some videos on freelancing as well, because I mean, see, uh, there are a lot of projects posted, around static websites. A lot of people have requirements. Maybe they are starting up a new company or something, and they want a website just to showcase their stuff and things like that. And I mean, since it is something that is, quite common in today's days, and a lot of projects also get posted for creating static websites. I think that once you have these skills on how to create different types of static websites, you are more than prepared to take on those kinds of projects, right? So after this, I'm going to create some videos on how you can freelance. And in that, I mean, after going through those videos, maybe you can start, getting some freelancing projects, apply for some projects. And I'll tell you a trick or two, how you can, get more projects, how you can score your first project. I'll also talk about how I got my first freelancing projects. It's a funny story actually. But yeah, I mean, we are going to, discuss all those things, and I'll make sure that I give you enough knowledge about how you can start freelancing. And if you're a student, maybe you can, start generating some income for yourself that can help you manage at least your expenses for the month, right? So that is the agenda of phase one, where we are going to learn free, like, how to create static websites, and then we are going to dive deep into how you can start freelancing, and I'll then urge you to start freelancing. And also one more thing that is there is that there are going to be notes available for all of these things, all of the videos that I'm going to create, not just for phase one but any of the phases. There are going to be a lot of notes regarding that, there are going to be a lot of assignments regarding that, and there are going to be some competitions as well, so be prepared for them. I mean, I am going to host some competitions with some good giveaways, and I mean, those are going to be some challenging projects for you to create. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, uh, as you know, most of the people, and including myself, say that you should learn by doing. We are going to focus a lot on, you know, how to implement these skills hands on. So we are going to build a lot of projects, there are going to be a lot of assignments, and the competition is going to be pretty much high, right? And yeah, I mean, the giveaways are going to be based on those competitions, right? So learn seriously, right? Because I mean, if you want some good prizes, then this is something that you have to do. And yeah, I mean, that is there for phase one. And if you go to phase two, then in phase two we can, I mean, you can see that we are going to focus on some serverless as well as event driven architecture, right? So I mean, it might be some technical jargon for you at this point of time, but yeah, I mean, once you know how to create static websites, it becomes pretty easy to create, you know, projects that follow a serverless architecture or event driven architecture. And for that we are going to go a little bit higher in JavaScript. You know how JavaScript works at a more advanced level, somewhat of an intermediate level. And what asynchronous JavaScript is in the first place, you know, how it is asynchronous in nature, and you know how it works in the browser, things like that. We are going to cover all of that. And apart from that, we are also going to talk about Firebase. So Firebase, like, is a hotshot database that is, you know, replacing all the most of the NoSQL databases, I would say. I mean, there are a lot of databases apart from Firebase as well. There are, you know, databases like GraphQL and things like that, that a lot of people, you know, commonly have started using. But Firebase is a good, you know, first database to pick up as a NoSQL database, and it offers a lot of functionalities that, you know, I'm going to make you familiar with. So we are going to cover Firebase, and along with Firebase, we are also going to cover some of the cloud functions. You know how cloud functions are created, and you know how they can help in a serverless architecture that we will, you know, strive to create. And we are going to study a little bit about backend as well. I mean, since we are going to create serverless architecture, you won't be actually writing any backend, but I mean, still, I mean, it's good to know that what are APIs and what are CRUD operations, you know, how they perform, and what are different response status codes and things like that, and you know, some error handling and things like that. So we're going to do a lot of that, and all of this is going to be hands on. So as I've said earlier in this video as well, don't just expect that I'm just going to teach you all of this. We are going to practice all of this, right? So that is going to be there. And we'll also cover some object oriented programming in JavaScript. That is very essential, object oriented programming. And since we, you know, learn JavaScript in phase 1 and phase 2, then it is wiser to, you know, learn object oriented programming through JavaScript, right? So this is also something that is going to be very interesting for you guys. And yeah, I mean, we are going to understand how, you know, full stack web development works, since, you know, we are going to learn a little bit about backend, and we have already learned about front end, you know, static websites and things like that. So we are going to understand what, you know, full stack web dev actually is, and what are the things that are involved in that. And you're also going to, you know, learn about what events and events are, you know, how we can, because that is essential for event driven architecture. So we are going to cover what events are, you know, how you can simulate them, and how you can test your different events, and how you create listeners for those events, and things like that, how you optimize your code around event driven architecture, things like that. So we are going to cover all of that. And the phase 1 and the phase 2 that I've shown you, right? Since I mentioned that it is going to have a lot of projects involved and a lot of assignments involved, and it is going to also, you know, have some competitions revolving around these, right? The reason why we are doing this is that, first of all, I mean, since learn by doing is a thing which actually helps a lot. We are going to focus on that. And secondly, I mean, all these projects and assignments and competitions that are going to be there, they are going to help you in creating a very strong portfolio as well. Right now you may ask that, Apur, we are creating these applications, but how are we going to show these applications to other people that we have created? So worry not, we are going to deploy all of these applications that we are creating, even the static websites that we are creating, we are going to deploy them. Even the serverless or event driven architecture applications that we are creating, we are going to deploy them. And we are also going to deploy all of the phase 3 and phase 4 applications as well. So you'll have some links that you can add in your resumes or your portfolios, where you can actually let the interviewer or a client experience those applications that you've created, right, through this roadmap and the bootcamp. So that is going to be there, and a lot of exciting stuff is going to be there, right? And I think that's all about phase 2. So let's now go to phase 3. What does the phase 3 entail? So if we go into phase 3, then we'll see that we can see in our screen that we are talking about monolithic architecture, right? So again, it might be sounding like a technical jargon or things like that, but this is something that majority of the applications follow, right? So monolithic architecture is something that we are going to focus on this phase 3 of the roadmap as well as the bootcamp. Within this phase, we are going to learn Python, right? So I mean, since Python is like a very hotshot famous language, we are going to learn Python. Python is also like one of my most favorite languages, the language that I personally started with when I started coding 4 years 4.5 years ago. When I started coding, Python was the language I first chose, and it has took me places. So Python is something that you do not want to miss on. We are going to start with Python, and we are going to also again cover object oriented programming in Python. And you may ask that why are we covering it again and again when we have already learned object oriented programming in JavaScript? Why do it in Python as well? So the reason behind that is that JavaScript is asynchronous in nature, but Python is synchronous in nature. So I mean, some things work differently in Python, and again, it's a good practice to reiterate all of the things, right? So even in if we talk about phase 1 again, I mean, phase 1 we are talking about static websites, right? So the skills that we are going to acquire in the static websites, it's not like it is going to stay limited just to phase 1, but when we move to phase 2, we are going to reiterate all the skills that we applied in phase 1, and we are going to learn new things along with reiterating the skills that we already learned, right? So reiterating what you have already learned in different architectures and different technologies and different things like that, it is going to help you immensely in understanding the topic till its very core, right? So that's why we are going to reiterate on a lot of stuff, maybe in different use cases, but we are going to keep reiterating and seeing how the same concept is getting applied in different use cases, different problems. That is going to build a very strong foundation and a very strong understanding about whatever concepts or skills we are going to pick up, right, while doing the boot camp, and when you see the roadmap as well. And you're going to study a little bit about what threads and processes are and how they can help in making Python asynchronous to some extent, right? We are going to see that as well. And we are going to do a lot of scripting in Python as well. So I mean, a lot of times we see that there are a lot of bots on Twitter, and they just automatically keep maybe following some people or retweeting some of the content based on some conditions and things like that. So how are these bots created? How do you scrape a website, scrape data from a website? How do you crawl a website or things like that? So we are going to cover all of that as well, and we are going to do a lot of scripting. I'm going to show you how to create Twitter bots and Discord bots and things like that. And we are going to create scrapers, and you're going to also create some automation tools and things like that. And we're going to talk a little bit about virtual environment is like very essential um, when we you know it's like node modules. If you're a JavaScript guy, it's like node modules, the one that npm create, right? So this is virtual environment for you in Python, and it is very essential when you're working with Python, right, to maintain all your versions and to install, different dependencies and libraries and things like that. We are going to move on SQL database, right? So we in this like phase, we are going to also cover the PostgreSQL database, which is like the standalone database in SQL based databases that is used by majority of the companies and startups out there who are like still whose products are still based on SQL databases. So PostgreSQL database is something that we are going to cover. It is going to help you and get a lot of job opportunities. I cannot emphasize enough on this. And we're going to also cover Flask, right? So Flask is a micro framework of Python, and it is a very good first framework to pick up when you are trying to actually learn backend and MVC architecture and things like that. So you're going to, learn about Flask, what Flask is, and since this is the first time we are creating monolithic architecture, and there are different procedures to deploy a monolithic architecture. There are different providers for it as well. I mean, there are providers. Heroku is one big provider, and Microsoft Azure is one big provider, and you know GCP is one big provider, Google Cloud Platform. But since AWS is like widely used, we are going to cover AWS, right? So I'm going to create a few videos on AWS as well, how you can create EC2 instances, and how you can like once you purchase a domain, how you configure its DNS to map it with your website, how you create your own SSL certificates and things like that. And we are also going to cover nginx. So nginx is something that is used to create proxies for different things. Again, it might sound like a technical jargon, but yeah, I mean, so we are going to go from end to end, right from like starting it from scratch up until deployment, the thing I've been talking about since like in all my videos mostly. uh it was not like I was just talking about it. I'm going to actually cover all of this. And this is going to be there. And again, I mean, in phase one, I talked about like introducing you to freelancing, right? And telling you I'll create some videos on how you can start freelancing and start generating some extra income for you, maybe to handle your monthly expenses if you're a student or things like that. And as we move further into the phases, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, you are going to acquire more and more skills that are going to help you in getting higher paying projects in while freelancing, right? So if we move to, if let's say in phase 1 you are getting projects somewhere around you know uh, up until 15,000 bucks or something like that, or if you are in US, up until $200 or something like that, if you're getting projects up until $200. So when you move to phase 2, you would be eligible enough to get projects around somewhere around $300 to $500, right? You can target those kind of projects. And when we move to phase 3, right, you will be able to target projects that are worth somewhere around 500 to $1,500, right? Something like that. So you would be equipped with skills that will help you in managing projects that are up until like 500 to $1,500, or things like that. And phase 3, I mean, after completing phase 3, this is the phase where you are actually eligible enough to score a remote job, a good remote job, right? Somewhere around I guess 8 to 15 LPA or something, right? You can easily get those kinds of jobs, right? So after completing phase 3, I am going to create some videos on how to crack interviews, how to ace interviews, right? The things that you need to make sure your interviews goes pretty well. And you know uh, since you're already working on being a T-shaped developer, then you're not going to lack on the technical skills. But what kind of soft skills do you need to actually crack an interview, and what kind of attitude or mindset you should have to crack an interview? Those kinds of videos are going to be there after the completion of phase 3. And yeah, I mean, you by this time I think you would be good, like well equipped to make around 10 15 lakhs annually, right? So that is going to be there. And moving to phase 4, the final phase of this bootcamp, we are going to cover microservice architecture, something that is like widely getting used in most of the companies and startups nowadays. In this bootcamp, in this phase, basically, we are going to focus on advanced JavaScript, like how its runtime works and things like that. We are going to deep dive into JavaScript, how it works internally and things like that, and understand it in a very in-depth manner, right? And we are also going to learn about React.js. So React is like a very widely used framework, and we are going to cover React.js in this phase. And apart from React.js, we are also going to focus a lot on testing of the applications as well. What is test driven development, and how you can test your applications and things like that. And I'm going to teach you about Docker as well, and not just teach you, I mean, we are going to go hands on with Docker on the applications that we create, right? So we are going to create the applications as well as, add Docker to it, like how to deploy them with the help of Docker, create instances and things like that. And all the, you know, different files that we need for composing Docker and things like that. And we are also going to focus some on the bash scripting as well. You know how bash scripting is done, because it is like widely used. It is something that you need to have if you're doing Docker, right? Bash scripts are like very handy when you're working with Docker. So we are going to focus on bash scripting as well. And we are also going to understand how CI/CD is done, the continuous integration, continuous deployment. And you're going to see how what different dev environments are, and how to set these different environment variables as well for different dev environments, the development stage, the stage environment, the testing environment, and the production environment, the different environments that are there, and how you can configure that same application to run on different environments based on whatever it is running in. And again, I mean, the Git masterclass that I was talking about in phase 1 is going to come a lot handy while we are dealing with these things for different environments and things like that. And we are also going to focus a little bit about Scrum mastery as well, right? So how you do Scrum management. And you know what is Scrum basically. Since, I mean, in the last video, again, I'm referring back to my last video, but in the last video I was talking about agile teams, and in the agile teams part I was also mentioning that the first stage is to define your application, which is done through a project manager or something like that. So, I mean, project managers are basically Scrum masters, right? So we are going to talk about Scrum mastery as well. How you can actually manage a project well, and how actually this kind of things are done when you are working in a company or a startup. I'm going to show you that entire process, and that is going to give you a very deep insight on how things work when you're actually working as a professional in a company or a startup, right? And yeah, so I mean, this is about it for the boot camp. And this is the roadmap for the boot camp. Now, just to specify it, things are going to change a little bit in this boot camp. I mean, I have designed this roughly at this point of time, and obviously it is not going to stay the same. I am going to add more things, might shuffle the things a little bit here and there, right? So all of that is going to be there. And also, I mean, this is not all that I have to offer you. This is not all that I have to teach you. If you notice in this, I haven't covered about any of the JavaScript based backends, like Node.js, and I've not covered Django as well. So, like, since Flask is a micro framework of Python, Django is like the backend framework of Python, the main framework that is there, right? So I've also not covered Django in this. And I've not talked about any of the design patterns that exist, and we haven't also deep dived into the testing of an application, right? You saw that in phase 4 we are going to test the applications. I'm going to introduce you to how you can test your applications, give you some basic skills, but there's a lot to learn in testing as well, right? So this is not all that I have to offer. There are still a lot of things that I couldn't facilitate in this phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 of this roadmap and the bootcamp. But you could say that this is like the part 1 of the roadmap, right? Once we complete this entire thing, we are going to have a second roadmap which is going to take you next level, right? And Now you might be having some questions regarding, Apoorv, what kind of packages can I get after this bootcamp? So as I specified, after phase three, I think that it is like easy to get about 8 to 15 lakhs per annum, right? But if you complete the phase 4 as well, you can easily get up to 24, 25 LPA. I don't think that should be an issue. And yeah, I mean, uh, what I feel, I mean, as per my experience, is that going big, right? Going big as in going, 40, 45, 50 LPA packages is something that takes a little bit of time. So I mean, some people do manage it, some extraordinary people do manage it, right? I myself managed it in about 2 years, I guess, 2.5 years, I guess. But yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff takes time, right? So this is like the, you can consider it as the part one of the roadmap, which is going to like help you get packages up to 24, 25 LPA, based on, how well you do in this bootcamp, how seriously you take your learning, right? All the assignments that I'm going to give you, all the notes that I'm going to give you, and all the competitions and challenges that are going to be there for giveaway. You need to like do them seriously. If you're like dead serious about doing all of that, I am pretty sure you can get easily about 25 LPA after this boot camp. And next year, I mean, most probably we are going to go next level about, acquiring some high level skills that fetch you even higher packages like 40, 45, 50 LPA. We are going to cover that next year. This year I'm not sure if I can, facilitate so much of teachings, because this is not about one particular technology, right? This is not about one particular language, this is not about one particular domain, right? It's not just about DevOps or web dev, or it's not just about Node.js or Django, or it's, not just about Python or JavaScript. I am, trying to teach you end to end how you can start from scratch and, take it till the deployment stage, right? And since, I mean, there's a lot of things to teach and a lot of, architectures, as you see, the serverless or the event driven architecture, and my monolithic architecture and microservice architecture. So since there are a lot of things to teach end to end, um, it is going to take a little bit of time, right? I am not yet sure about the timeline of this boot camp. Not sure how much time this is going to take. My assumption is that it might take 1 year or something. And if you ask me when this boot camp is going to be started, so the expected date for starting this boot camp is about 13th May this year, right? And the reason why it is 13th May is that I am yet to do a lot of work on this bootcamp. I mean, I have to create a lot of notes, and I have to create a lot of assignments, and I have to create the solutions of all those assignments. So as you can see, it's a lot of work I am seeing in front of me. And I also have to, create my own website as well for the virtual tech school community that we have running on the Discord. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work, right? So I need at least 1 more month from this time to actually, start the boot camp. Because I mean, once I start the boot camp, I don't want it to halt for any reason whatsoever, right? I want to post the content regularly, and I want to maintain that consistency, and I want to make sure that your learning does not get hampered. So I mean, it's better that I take that time now than delaying it later. So that is something that I have in plan, and that's why the date is 13th May 2013. I'll try that it doesn't get extended more than that. Most probably it will not, and I have content planned till then as well, so you don't have to worry about that. I mean, you won't have anything to learn or anything, right? There are some good videos coming up pretty soon, right? And there are some podcasts as well that are coming. So I mean, stay tuned for that. And if again, I mean, I'll reiterate what I said in the beginning of this video. This roadmap is not just for a first year or a second year or a third year or a fourth year student. If you are a student who is still in school, this is for you, because we are going to do from scratch. If you're it doesn't matter whatever year you're in, first year, second year, third year, fourth year, this is for you, since we are going to do it from scratch. If you are someone who falls at a higher age group, who doesn't have an IT degree but wants to get into computer science, this bootcamp is for you. This roadmap is for you, right? And if you're a college dropout, since I am a college dropout, this bootcamp is for you, right? And it is going to, like, if you follow it seriously, if you're dead serious about it, it is like, I am pretty sure you're going to get about 24 25 lpa out of this bootcamp after 1 year. And whatever it is, I mean, the result doesn't matter as long as you work hard, right? Just focus on working hard. Don't focus on the kind of package that you want. Focus on it when you are actually, attempting to give interviews. But when you're just learning, just focus on learning, right? Your focus should not be on, I want 40 lpa, 50 lpa. Your focus should not lie on the kind of package that you want. Your focus should be just on learning, right? Once you get your learning right, success is going to follow you, right? And good packages are going to come. Good remote jobs are going to come, right? You are going to get remote jobs no matter whatever stage you are in, right? You're going to get good remote jobs if you follow it dead seriously, right? And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this video. And do make sure to subscribe to this channel, because I mean, if you like this roadmap, then just wait for it, right? The bootcamp is going to be just awesome, and the competitions are going to be even awesome, right? And the giveaways are going to be even more awesome, right? So that is going to be there. And yeah, I mean, also one more query that I received a few days ago, I think, was from someone who said that, whatever assignments or competitions that you create, um, just give out the solutions for them as well. So I have something planned for that as well. I won't be directly giving out solutions, but you'll be getting solutions, right? So don't, like, think it in a way that if you're not, let's say, able to complete an assignment or a roadmap, you are going to get a solution with an explanation, but not from me, right? So that is going to be there. And yeah, I mean, just subscribe to this channel, like this video. You can go watch out my previous videos. I have got a lot of positive reviews on that, and they are going to add some value to your life, maybe help you in improving your career. And do let me know in the comment section below how you like, do you find this bootcamp good, or do you want, like, is there any scope of improvement? Because I'm open to suggestions, good suggestions, right? I'm not going to take random suggestions. But yeah, if I really like a suggestion, I'm going to take that up. And yeah, I mean, that is pretty much it for this video. And I'll see you guys in the next video, right? Bye.